This is the perfect family scene when Mom, Dad, and Junior all want to hear the same radio program.
It's important, actually, that the interviewer does homework and gets going instead of kind of dull, you know.
You probably get the best interview, darling.
I have a personal relationship with my fans where I don't mess around.
You know what I mean? You're right, you know, music should be a fucking uplifting thing.
I delivered the message. Now what?
It's time for Ben Pitcher's Industry Insider.
Got the message?
We're into the home stretch here on Industry Insider for this podcast. Part 3 with Vix from Alpha Entertainment. Vix, something I'm really interested in is Chris Cornell for 2015.
Yes. So Live Nation is a client that I work with. Obviously, I did Nickelback tour through them, and I'm also looking after Chris Cornell as well. So he's got his tour dates coming up in sort of November, December this year. You know, and he's an amazing man. I met him, well, I didn't meet him. I worked very briefly with him at Soundwave when he was out with Soundgarden. You know, he's a prolific artist across all of his projects. So I'm quite looking forward to this because this is his solo acoustic tour. So it's him and a guitar. And to be honest with you, I've not seen him in that environment yet. So I'm really looking forward to that. But he's got a new record dropping in September. I've not heard it yet, but can't wait to get my grubby little hands on it.
Absolutely. And well, hopefully it gets delivered to you and you can open it up in a box like the old days.
How would that be? If it came on vinyl, that would be even better.
If you're listening, Chris, vinyl.
Yeah. Vinyl.
Sorted out. And industry clients, I see that, which is very interesting. Now, this almost goes back to the old days of what you did at the record label. You have Anyway here, which is a Melbourne club night.
It is, actually. And it was, you know, that's been a very different experience. And I was really keen to kind of do a couple of months with them. And it was about branding their club a little bit more for them. They do put extraordinary talent into that club. They're probably one of the best sort of clubs in Melbourne. The guys that run it have, you know, quite a few years' experience of running, you know, the best nights in Melbourne. And again, it's a group of guys that really know their genre. So it's a way that I keep very much in touch with what's coming through in the electronic world, what the kids are listening to. But branding a club and PRing a club is such a very different, you're looking at different spaces and different profile. So that was kind of a nice challenge to see. You know, the first couple of weeks I just sort of wanted to, you know, kind of put some press releases out there and see where the traction came from. But, you know, we had to really look around and go, okay, you know, can we secure the artists for interviews? You know, you liaise with the label, but promoting a night in a club is very different. It sits in a different place, you know, and when you're pitching to media, you're not just pitching for like a feature interview. You know, we had to come at it from a different angle. So that was a different challenge. We had to do homework and research, you know, Where do we get profile? Who do we deal with? Is it the same people? So that was a fun and challenging project. Yeah. And it's something that will be ongoing. We will continue to work together over sort of probably the next 12 months. And the guys that run Anyway, you know, I would imagine there's sort of, you know, a bit of stuff going on from them, but that night I'm anticipating that will probably be a national night around Australia, you know, by mid next year.
Yeah, so it's growing fast. Growing fast.
Yeah, they're booming. Yeah.
A mutual friend of ours, Jan, Way of the Eagle, doing production masterclass. Now, this would be very exciting in itself because, I mean, you talk about Chris Cornell being prolific artist. I think if Jan is not on his way now to being something like that in another 15 to 20 years' time, then nobody is in Australia because the man has talent and what an amazing person to work with.
You know, I'm delighted. I love Jan. I love what he does. And when this first came into the office, you know, I almost contemplated signing up for it because I would be fascinated to have 4 days one-on-one with him to learn about something I know, you know, a side of the industry that I have no knowledge of. I have no idea how a studio works. I'm completely ignorant. So you would learn a lot. But, you know, again, he's worked with some of the most incredible artists. I love a lot of the stuff that he's done with, you know, Dan Sultan and Illy and Owl Eyes and all of those guys. He's an incredible producer. And basically, he's locked away 4 days And this is very limited numbers. There aren't a lot of places, and I think it's actually sold out, to be honest with you. And for anybody that's interested in production, to be in a very, very small group of people around somebody who is so incredibly good at what they do is invaluable. You know, I would pay thousands to have that opportunity if that was what I was into, because that's essentially going to fast track you. You know, 4 days with, you know, one-on-one like that, that's invaluable, Ben. You know,
absolutely.
that's the kind of experience. And, you know, it's very generous of him to open himself out like that as well. I love the fact that he's doing this, because hopefully he's sharing his skill set to another generation of producers, you know, and the more talented people that we can, you know, grow in this country, the better for the industry, full stop. That's great.
Absolutely, absolutely. And our best to Jan. Hello, mate, if you're listening.
We love Jan.
We do love Jan.
Subscribe to Ben Pitcher's Industry Insider on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and iTunes. You're listening to Ben Pitcher's Industry Insider.
Just the final thing, this is a huge role, and it's starting as of July 1, as I understand. Territory Manager for International Solutions for Australia and New Zealand. I've read up a little bit about these guys. They look super impressive. Can you tell me a little bit more about the company and the role you'll be taking on?
I am so excited about this. Of course, you know, I would take on more work. This is such a great opportunity. So International Solutions are a promotions and marketing company. And what they provide, basically they have a representative, and the head of the company is based out of the Netherlands. They have an office in London and they have an office in New York. And what they allow, the deal that we've done is that for Australian artists, it's very, very difficult to actually put together a release strategy in an international territory. There's a real disconnect. And so this is incredibly exciting, because if you're a signed artist to a label or an unsigned artist and you want to look at releasing your music in another territory, you've got to have promotions and marketing around it. And that's what we're now able to do. So, you know, and it's funny, this has been a bit of a thing for me for a very long time. There was a scenario probably about 10 years ago, and I worked with a multi-platinum Australian artist. So they had a 7 times platinum record here. The next step, and you know, at that point in time, was that they should have had that record released in an international territory. The band were really keen to make it happen. What became obvious at that point was that the label that they were signed to didn't have the communication or the infrastructure, or, you know, I don't know how to explain it, but they couldn't open, you know, the doors to the international affiliates to get them to option that record. It was the biggest record in the country at the time. And I was baffled by that. I was like, why can that label not take that 7 times platinum record to their affiliates in, you know, LA and New York and go, you know what, you guys should look at releasing this, put a commitment to it, we'll help you out, you know, this band has got potential. Those conversations don't seem to happen. And then before, you know, I started the conversation with International Solutions, and I wanted to sort of get my head around it. And so I just kind of, you know, talked to a lot of people about it before we signed the deal. And I was having a conversation with one of the Sony marketing team out here, and he really sort of cemented that I was, you know, on the right track. And we were at lunch, and I said to him, you know, if you've got a mid to high level signed artist to Sony, how do you get your international affiliates to release that record? And he said, really, they don't give a shit. That's the bottom line. You know, they've got much bigger artists that they're looking after. And he said, what you need to do is then put a team in place in that territory and like take a track out, get some press and promotion, start to get some heat around it. So then the label will then option and release the record. And so that's really what International Solutions is able to offer Australian artists now. And at the moment, Australian music is probably at its best, you know, and I think there's, you know, some artists, we've got more artists having international success than we've ever had before, but a lot of that is due to their own teams and their own hard work. And I think there's a real interest in the rest of the world in what we're doing musically. You know, our artists out here are very diverse, it's interesting, it's a real hot pot, I think, at the moment. And also, the bottom line is, I think Australia's predicting, a pretty flat market with not a lot of growth for the next 5 years. And, I'm not sure what the rest of the world looks like, but for an Australian artist to sit and just have, a one-dimensional, one territory ambition or view, I don't think is enough anymore, and there are so many other ways to get your music out to the rest of the world. But I've seen Australian artists over the years and, they're like, we want to book a tour in Europe. And they book a tour in Europe and they drive around, they do it. But that's, it doesn't have any real major impact, because if you're going to go to a country and do shows overseas, you need somebody to service some music ahead of your tour so that you're not going in completely fresh. And then you need somebody on the ground over there who can lock in your interviews or deal with your touring agent or, make sure stuff is happening. And that's where this, international solutions comes into play. On the flip side of that, for, their incredible roster of artists and labels that they look after, they are now able to offer Australia and New Zealand as a territory. So if one of their clients or artists wants to release a record or tour in Australia, I'm here to facilitate that. I can put a radio plugger in place. I can put a marketing strategy in place. I can either put a publicist in place or I can do the job myself through my team here. So it worked out really well. And I know I babble about it, but I am hugely excited about what it means for, I think, some of our artists out here.
Yeah, and look, you being excited about it means that the job is going to get done properly. Because when you're excited about a job, it becomes more than a job. It's just what you do when you get up in the morning with a smile on your face.
That's exactly right. So yeah, it's something I'm very passionate about at the moment.
Well, we're looking forward to seeing the next 12 months and all of these amazing things happening, and we will stay in touch. And we'd love to have you back on the show just to have a chat about, maybe the festivals coming up or an artist touring or just stay in touch.
We've got some great stuff. I've got some further announcements coming in the next half of this year. Really exciting stuff. So I'll keep you abreast of those. And I think it's very important, Ben, that you join us for CM Beats. I think that's absolutely essential and needs to happen. So you put that in your diary, and we will absolutely see you in March.
Well, just be careful what you wish for. All right. That's all. Vic, thanks, Victoria. Thank you very much for joining us, Director of Alpha Entertainment. If you want to check out Alpha Entertainment, as I see it at the moment, Vic, it's just on the Facebook at this point in time.
It is. Do you know what? I never had time to set a website up, but there is a website coming in the next 2 weeks. I finally put that to play.
Okay. Even we'll in the information below the podcast, we'll make sure that people can go to the link when the link is ready to click on. But in the meantime, Alpha Entertainment on Facebook, is that correct? Just the /
That's
Alpha
correct.
Entertainment? Fantastic. Yep. Well, thank you so much for joining me, and it's been an absolute pleasure as always.
Thank you for having me, Ben. Thank you. I've really enjoyed chatting to you. It's been lovely.
You too. And it's just been great to learn a little bit more about someone who's been in the biz as long as you, and very interesting stories. I'm sure there's more to come.
Oh, there's heaps more.
Follow Ben on Instagram at Industry Insider Official. You've been listening to Ben Pitcher's Industry Insider.